looking at Film Fury. I'm Victor Lucas. This is Johnny Millennium, and we just got out of Ralph Breaks the Internet, the brand new Disney animated movie based on video game characters that go and do a lot more than just stay within the confines of their video game, right?
They kind of sneak out into the regular world, onto the internet this time, and go on a huge adventure. And I gotta say, did you enjoy the first movie?
I did, but the weird thing about Wreck-It Ralph was that it was kind of like a video game version of Roger Rabbit, where there were all these little cameos of characters that we knew from the video game world.
Street Fighter and all sorts of things, yeah.
And Roger Rabbit, of course, had the Disney and Warner Brothers cartoons and stuff all intermingling. But I felt like they didn't go deep enough into the video game universe, and they kept
it kind of light and just everyone had cameos.
Yes.
And you get the same again here, though.
Well, and I thought for sure with this sequel, that's exactly where they were going to go. And they didn't do any of that. And that's one of the things that I think is actually kind of cool about Ralph Breaks the Internet, is that I didn't expect anything I didn't know where they were going with the story. There were lots of weird surprises. I mean, I knew that they were going to go into the internet, but
I'd break it.
Yeah, I knew that was happening, but I didn't know how, and I didn't know who they were going to talk to.
Sure,
there are definitely a lot of things that bother me about this movie, but one thing that I really did enjoy is that for the most part, we're with John C. Reilly as Ralph, and Vanellope played by Sarah Silverman. And they're great. They're really
they're really solid. I gotta say, before this movie, I watched a 3-minute summary of the first movie because I didn't see the first movie.
Oh, dude.
I don't know why I didn't. My mother, I was talking to her on the phone today. She's like, "I love that movie." I'm like, "I didn't see it." She's like, "You should have seen it." My mom was berating me, so I watched the 3-minute summary, and I'm like, "Okay, I'm ready for this movie." I walked in. And it's okay. It's not bad. It's like it's a fun movie, really great to bring your family to. Didn't you say at one point during the movie this is a little bit scary for young kids at times?
There is some freaky stuff in it, and actually I was just in Disneyland with my family, and they had a Ralph Breaks the Internet teaser video that they were showing, and I brought my daughter, and we watched it, and we thought it was pretty cool. But they freeze it right at a super dangerous part, and my kid asked, you got to tell me what happens next, so you can spoil a little bit. I just don't. I don't want to see if it's too dangerous, if there's too much violence that happens. And there are some pretty evocative little scenes in there where it gets pretty intense. And kind of creepy. But I like that they pushed it, and I felt like that was a
little bit more adult in that regard.
Better storytelling this time.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
That's what they really lean on, is that it's more about the emotional connection of these two characters
and having them ripped apart in this entire adventure that happens to them. As Ralph breaks the internet, we're not going to spoil anything. Some crazy things happen. We see different characters. We get to see Amazon. We get to see a fictional YouTube world. What was it called? YouTube Buzz or something?
Or like. This is kind of the stuff that bugged me a bit. I don't know how you would do the internet without throwing all these brands up there.
They're going to become dated. I was thinking to myself, what are people going to think in 20 years' time?
Well, it's the Blade Runner effect, right? When you watch Blade Runner and you watch half the brands that Harrison Ford is running past.
Atari and stuff like that.
And TIAC, and there are all these other brands. I think you got to do it, though, because it kind of adds
it has to be for today.
Yeah, it connects you to the world.
Right. So basically, when they entered into the internet world, there's like Pinterest and there's Amazon. Almost in a way of advertisements.
It felt like ads. But I know that the movie is aware of that, and they're poking holes in that, sometimes literally in the film. But it is a little crass, but in the same kind of context that the first movie threw in all these video game characters. So in the first movie, I guess that the cameos were game characters. In this one, the cameos are internet sites.
That's kind of interesting.
Huge, commerce destinations.
And video game characters take an even bigger backseat, I'm guessing, this one, because they just say a few lines here and there that are really great, and I wanted more.
I did too.
I
still want more. Yeah, that's the one troubling thing. And I honestly,
Disney doesn't want that. Disney doesn't want Sonic taking over their movie.
I guess.
Right? So that makes sense.
But it worked for Roger Rabbit, though. Roger Rabbit had lots of great, homages and lots of moments with all of these classic characters, and I felt like they just scratched the surface in this movie series, and I still wanted it, but I was also really surprised. There's a couple of funny bits in here where they're kind of, looking at all the Disney properties, because Disney is one of the websites that they go to.
I know exactly the parts you're talking about.
But there's one scene in particular where they kind of throw a little bit of you know, not shade, but they sort of poke fun of the fact that the other studio does some things that are a little risque.
Oh,
and they're
yes.
talking about their relationship with Pixar.
Yes.
That does some highfalutin stuff. And I felt like this was one of the most Pixar-feeling
Films?
Disney animated, because that's from
definitely.
the Disney Animated Studio. It felt like a very touchy-feely, turning these characters that are not humans into humans kind of experience.
Right.
Like you are really...
I'm making them feel all these emotional things with themselves, with the world, with the problems
Yes.
they're in.
Reminded me of
apart,
Inside
bringing them
Out.
together. Yeah, this is my problem with the movie.
Yes.
It's a really weird flow to the movie.
Yeah.
We're kind of going on an adventure,
Right.
and then all of a sudden it gets so kind of creepy and serious.
Yes, it
and then,
pushes
it pushes
heart,
you.
yeah.
It pushes you in a weird way.
It's manipulative.
And at the end, I'm not going to say anything. You kind of feel a little deflated, and you're like,
Yeah.
"Was this the point? Okay, that's fine."
The life lesson.
It was a
Yeah.
life lesson, and I
Yes.
didn't know if I wanted to get that.
Yeah.
In fact, in this movie, I think they were trying to do a lot of different life lessons, and I agree with some of them. I do, but they were so in my face.
Yeah,
and they were a little bit. They were very modern to some very modern. Politic ideas going on in here.
Yeah.
And let me say, I agree with all of them in the film.
Yeah.
But it just felt like it was put there for the sake of putting it there, rather than for a comedic flow.
Right.
Adding to the characters. It's almost like they were trying to do little statements here
Yeah.
and there.
Yeah.
It
felt a little designed by committee.
Forced. It felt a little forced.
Yes, and like they were trying to push it together with lots of different ideas
A lot of different people in mind.
and it wasn't.
Yes.
It wasn't as smoothly conceived, but because of that though, I feel like there is a lot of surprise. It doesn't really go where you expect it to go.
No,
and
exactly.
the first movie, what's that super popular geek TV show? I forget the name
Yeah.
of the TV show, but there's this kind of idea that you can kind of poke fun at the nerd culture, and you can sort of
Right.
sprinkle over the top, and regular people that aren't super nerds have some kind of identity with it, and they can sort of get it. And I feel like the first movie was kind of like that. Everybody had sort of the touchstones of video games in their mind, so the first movie became enough of a hit, but it honestly surprised me that it became a hit because I wanted so much more. It felt like it missed me.
They made it for you, yeah.
but they
and
missed
went
me.
a little bit over.
Yeah,
they
and
didn't give you all the video game
for
stuff that you wanted.
And they went for a general audience, so I feel like that general audience, I don't know if this is that movie that they want.
I know.
You know?
Our parents going to be watching it saying, I know Amazon.
Yeah.
I know Pinterest.
I guess so. Maybe that's what it is. Yeah.
And do you know what, though? I think a lot of kids might really enjoy this movie because they're growing up with the internet.
Right.
And this just feels right at home for them.
Yeah.
And their favorite characters are thrown into the thing that they're being thrown into
Yes.
at this time in their life. But for me, the roller coaster ride was up and down with this film. And yes, I didn't know where it was going, but when I got to the end, I was just like, I don't know.
The characters are great, though.
They're
right?
fantastic.
Yeah.
And the humor, when it's working, which it usually is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah,
It's really funny. I
there is-
smiled a lot of times.
There is some really great laughs in there. Some great, and it's not just John C. Reilly and Sarah Silverman. There's lots of great cameos all the way through here.
Oh, yes.
You do see some of the video game characters. Gal Gadot has a big role in this movie
Yes.
as well, and she's pretty cool.
Really cool.
Yeah, and there's a great kind of, very knowing look at how racing games are sort of put together and how cheesy they can be.
And pop-up ads. And there's a lot of real... We were laughing about the YouTube stuff.
Yes.
Because we could relate to it. Because there's one time, and I'm going to say this. No, I can't.
Yeah.
Ralph walks into something, and he sees the comment section of YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
And he's just like, no. And he just melts, and I was just like... Me and Vic are like, yeah, we've seen some of that.
Been through
We've
that.
seen-
Yep.
Absolutely.
We understand that.
We can feel that. So it's relatable in a lot of ways, and I just think it's weird for young kids to go and see this movie.
There's definitely a couple of sequences. Not apart from the dangerous stuff, there's a couple of risky things that are happening in the movie, which I think, if you look at something like Up or like Inside Out from Pixar, they do that all the time.
Right.
It just felt a little weird from the Disney Animation Studio.
Yeah, it felt like
space.
as a Disney. You're right. As a Disney movie, it felt very strange.
It felt like Inside Out with video game characters,
Yes.
which is because it's so surreal and trippy and emotional and weird. but it's also kind of beautiful and cool. And
it is like
you
when
know?
you enter the internet world, it's like, wow, this is incredible. I love stuff like that, and I did like the adventure, but it was a weird ride.
Yeah.
When I got off, it's like, you know what this movie was like to me? It was like being on a roller coaster ride, and you're going, ooh, and lows and ups, and then you get off, and you're just like,
I don't know if I liked it.
Yeah,
it just shook me around.
It just shook me around. I don't know how to feel, but I like this movie. I
saw Ralph too. I don't know how to feel.
I don't know how to feel. I don't know.
You know what? I definitely want to hear what your take is. You have to see the first movie now. Okay, now you've got this weird perspective shift because you've seen
the second one. I don't know if I want to see the first. I don't mean that in a bad way.
I want to hear what you think of the first one, though.
I'm sure it's fine.
And I don't know if this is going to be a smash. I don't know.
I think it will be.
You think?
All the kids are like, I want to see Ralph break the internet.
I mean, there's enough familiarity in there, but it is a kind of a weird film, but definitely artistically done. And I think all of these weird ways that it was put together, all these different pieces, still mesh together into something where you end up caring about the people.
I will never watch the movie again, though.
And their video game characters. I'm not compelled to like collect this one for sure, but
no.
I did enjoy myself. What are you going to give Ralph Breaks the Internet?
I think it's really good. I think there's a lot of humor, but I'm just going to give it a 7.5.
Yeah, I'm right there. 7.5 for me as well.